And they're just throwing this fire hazard junk in with these camcorders to make them seem like a good value. Hi, how's it going? I may come off more harsh in this video than in some others. Maybe I'm getting crotchety as I get older, but I'm fed up with the lies. I've been reviewing cheap cameras and camcorders for years now, and while the brands and models sometimes change and the resolution claims continue to get ever more outrageous, ultimately nothing really changes. It's the same cameras and the same lies. Today I'm looking at two more of these cameras, but for this video the particular cameras almost don't matter. They're just representative of the situation. In fact, regardless of the seller, the brand name, or if they have a brand name even, which these two don't, at least not printed on them, many have identical bodies and buttons, they all include similar accessories, many have identical menus, etc. Despite different brands and sellers, these two cameras came with almost identical accessories. And all you have to do is search camcorder on Amazon and you'll find dozens of listings. I review cameras like this for a couple of reasons. First of all, I wish there were still companies making decent, consumer-grade camcorders. So I try to keep an eye out for promising options. But the other reason is because there's so much false advertising for these things, and I can't believe they're getting away with it. These things have ads full of outright lies and fake reviews. And the models and brands keep changing and shifting, so even if someone finds out one of them is poor quality, they will always be able to ask, well, what about this other one? Or these other 10? These two particular camcorders supposedly record 8K video. In addition to the usual photoshopped stock photos provided as totally non-representative examples of what these cameras can do, they're now also using AI-generated pictures. The ad for this one is full of AI pictures. The description says it has a lens hook. Oh, I'm sorry, it has a lens hadad. It says the lens hook prevents the images from being overexposed, which isn't how lens hoods work. It says it has 6-axis gyroscopic autofocus, which is not only nonsense, it's also a lie because it doesn't have autofocus at all. It says it has face detection and a continuous photo shooting mode, but it doesn't. It says the included external microphone effectively eliminates background noise, but it can't because it's not actually a shotgun mic, and it doesn't even have a directional pickup pattern at all. It's an omnidirectional mic. And all that is before we even talk about the ludicrous claims of 8K video and 88 megapixel photos. So what do the reviews say? 100% recommended. The camera exceeded my expectations. It's of excellent quality with great image and sound resolution. I loved how easy it is to use and how complete its accessories are. Perfect for recording videos and personal projects. I'll definitely buy another one to give to my husband. I'm starting to think that the pictures used in the ads are not the only thing created by AI. Here's the next review. I'm really impressed with this camera. The 8K image quality is amazing. The colors are sharp and every detail looks crystal clear. It's lightweight, easy to use, and perfect for both indoor and outdoor recording. The flip screen is great for vlogging or family videos, and the zoom works beautifully. Perfect for videos, family memories, or personal projects. Highly recommended. Quality that exceeds the expectation of any user. This digital camera is simply spectacular. It offers stunning image quality, perfect for both photos and videos. Plus it features Wi-Fi for instant file transfers. It comes with 2 long-lasting batteries, ensuring you'll never run out of power in the middle of a shoot. It also includes a 32GB card, perfect for storing all your memories without having to worry about space. And of course, the included remote control and charger make it super convenient and easy to use. Definitely an ideal choice for those looking for quality and practicality. This camera is awesome. The 8K video quality is super clear, and the 18x zoom works great. I love the touchscreen and the built-in Wi-Fi for easy sharing. Perfect for vlogging, YouTube, or any trip. Comes ready with a mic and 32GB card. Excellent value. And the reviews just go on and on. Some of them have terrible grammar and just weird things, and some of them have tons of emojis and dashes and things that look like they clearly were written by AI. But regardless, it's pretty clear these are not reviews. They are just ads parroting the talking points of the product page, pretending to be reviews. All of these cameras have tons of reviews exactly like this. I will say that this camera is at least one of the very few I tested that actually has image stabilization, despite most of them claiming to have it. It's digital only, so it only works in video, and it's far from perfect, but it has it. And here's a bit of a walk and talk vlog with one of the 8K cameras, the one with image stabilization, and I'm using the included external microphone pointed back at me, and this is how it looks and sounds. This other camcorder also claims to have a continuous photo shooting mode, image stabilization, and face tracking, but it has none of those things. Here is a walk and talk vlog with the other 8K, supposedly 8K camera. And just like the last one, this time I'm recording in 6K. I'm using the built-in microphone, I'm using the included external microphone pointed back at me. Obviously this is the one without image stabilization, but it also seems to have an overly jittery frame rate in 6K. Not even 8K, which supposedly is 15 frames per second. This is 6K, which is supposed to be 30. But it seems overly jittery, so I'm going to do it again at 4K, see how it looks. Both cameras look exactly like other camcorders I've reviewed, which claimed to be 4K and 5K, while these two pretend to be 8K. The 8K setting doesn't increase detail, and it cuts the frame rate to 15 frames per second on both cameras, so it's kind of worse than pointless. Interestingly, the 6K 30 setting on this camera looks slightly stuttery as well, with the 4K 30 frame per second setting looking smoother like actual 30 frames per second. But whether these types of cameras claim 4, 5, 6, or 8K, and 24, 64, or 88 megapixel photos, they upscale their photos and videos from a lower resolution, so their resolution claims are nonsense. Granted, resolution and even actual detail aren't everything when it comes to photos and videos. Some of my favorite pictures I've taken were with a 6 megapixel camera nearly 20 years ago. And at least with these two particular cameras, detail isn't their worst issue. It's not great, but it's okay for a cheap camera. Certainly not the worst I've tested. But the ads for all of these types of cameras tout their resolution claims and show fake images demonstrating how much clearer and more detailed their high-resolution video supposedly is, or their high-resolution photos supposedly are, compared to some lower resolution. They push the importance of increased resolution and claim their big number means their camera is better. That's why I harp on it. Not because low resolution means you can't get a usable image or video, but because the sellers make false claims demonstrated with fake images. For instance, here is a 64 and an 88 megapixel from these two respective cameras. Not great color, over-sharpened, poor dynamic range, etc. But without zooming in, detail seems okay. But here are crops from 64 and 88 megapixel images from these cameras compared to crops from 5 and 8 megapixel images from these cameras. Can you even tell which is which? Obviously, you're gaining no actual resolution from the big number. The pictures on the left have slightly more detail and a cleaner image, still probably 3 to 4 megapixels max. The one on the right is even less. Here is a crop from a 5 megapixel image from a Sony camera. It is far more detailed than either of these other two, and it is just 5 megapixels. No editing, just a 5 megapixel JPEG straight out of the camera. For a quick snapshot, 2 to 4 megapixels might be fine, but the ridiculously high numbers are nonsense. And as I've seen this type of camera slowly evolve from megapixel claims in the 20s and 30s to now as high as 88 megapixels, there has been effectively zero change in the actual images they produce. The same goes for their video. They do vary a bit in quality from camera to camera, but it doesn't seem to have any relationship to the actual claims, and most of them won't match a good 1080p camera in any of their settings. This camera does have a bit softer video in 1080p versus 4K, but it's hard to tell how much of that is actually due to an actual increase in resolution rather than due to the bump in bitrate and the extreme sharpening going on. But either way, 4, 6, and 8K video all look exactly the same, at least in terms of detail, but as mentioned, 6K and 8K both have stuttery frame rates. And while this camera has the more detailed video of these two, here is the best it has to offer next to 1080p from a Sony camera. 1080p from the Sony has more detail. On this other camera, 1080p through 8K all look basically the same, with 1080p possibly even looking the best, maybe due to issues from the upscaling it's doing. but all of it is mushier than the other camera. And these types of results aren't the exception. They're pretty much the norm for these types of cameras, except that once in a while you find one that's even worse. And the point isn't that a Sony is better. Sure. The point, though, is that the resolution claims of these cameras are not true. As alluded to earlier, face tracking doesn't exist in either camera despite the claims. It would be pointless anyway because neither one has autofocus, but that doesn't stop a lot of these cameras from having a face tracking setting that does nothing, just so they can put it in the ads. But these two cameras put face tracking in the ads without even bothering with the fake setting in the menu. Life hack. Both cameras claim to have a continuous photo shooting mode, but they don't. They have burst modes. One of them this one is limited to 3 pictures. The other one can do a set number from 3 to 10, depending on the setting in the menu, but it's whatever it's set at is what it always will do. If it's set at 10, you press the button, it takes 10 pictures. Both are slow and clunky to use to the point that I'm not really sure it's helpful versus just taking pictures one at a time, and neither one is actually a continuous mode. And both are way slower than that 20-year-old digital camera I mentioned earlier, which could actually shoot continuously at 2.5 pictures per second. Again, whatever, they're generic cameras, but the claims are lies. I've always found digital zoom in these cameras to be fairly useless because there just isn't enough detail there to be worth using. Plus, it's literally no better than cropping later. But once again, my main issue is the lies. Pointless or not, that doesn't stop them from lying about it so they can advertise a big number. Both of these cameras claim 18x zoom and printed on the camera, and I just noticed something funny. This camera says 48 megapixels on it, but in the ads it said 64, and in the menu it actually goes up to 64, so that's kind of funny. And it just goes to show that they're changing this stuff all the time, and the stuff that they print on it doesn't even necessarily match. But anyway, back to zoom. Here is the max zoom on this camera compared to 12x zoom on a real camcorder I have. And it's not even close. The actual amount of zoom these cameras have varies quite a lot, but I've never tested one that has what it claims. Lots of zoom seems like a hallmark of consumer camcorders, so it's just another number that these cameras lie about in the ads. One thing you would naturally expect from a camcorder, which is first and foremost a video camera, is the ability to record continuous video. But like virtually all of these cameras that I've tested, they don't record continuously. They have a max file size of roughly 4 gigabytes, and at that point, they don't just make a new file, they actually stop recording and then start again. It's not seamless, and the result is a bit of time lost. With this camera, it's about 1.5 seconds, and in this one, it's about 1 second. Typically, you get about 10 minutes of recording before this stop and start happens. And that is true with these two, but oddly on this camera, it actually records for a few minutes longer when set to 6K than when set to 4K because the bitrate when recording at 6K is around 25% lower than when recording at 4K. And that actually, again, just makes me think that I think the frame rate is less than 6K even though it says it's 30. Either way, the point is these generic camcorders almost always stop and start somewhere around 10 minutes or so and lose around 1 to 3 seconds when they do. Here is how the first of these two camcorders looks at my desk. The lighting is exactly the same, and this is how it sounds with the built-in microphone with the camera about 8 inches away from my mouth or so. And now I've switched to the included external microphone, and I'm holding it about 12 inches or so away from my mouth. I'm going to turn it slowly as I talk so you can see that it's clearly just an omnidirectional microphone. I won't continue to subject you to this audio, but here is the quality of the included microphone. And now here is the other camera with its built-in microphone. Keep in mind they both have fixed focus, and at my desk I'm probably within the minimum focus, so they might not be in super sharp focus. But this is what it looks like at my desk, and I am using the built-in microphone. I'm not using the included external microphone because it just has this short little cord, and I wouldn't really, well, I could maybe make it work. Yeah, you know what? I will make it work. Let's take a listen to this one. Okay, and now I am recording with this camera's included external microphone, and this one does have a slight directionality to the pickup pattern. So if I turn it and face it 90 degrees, and then I continue turning it and facing it away from me, the sound does change. So it does have a directional pickup pattern. This one does. It's still not a shotgun microphone, but it does at least seem like a cardioid microphone. But Here's how it sounds. This camera, whether you're using the external microphone or the built-in microphone, it has extremely heavy noise reduction. So when you're outside, you get this weird warbling, whooshy noise because there's a bunch of external noise that it's cutting out. All right, camera 2, built-in microphone, and just for the heck of it, now this is 1080p, 30 frames per second. In here, in my room, it doesn't seem as bad, so I think you get a little bit more natural audio in this setting. But either way, this is how it sounds with the included external microphone. Speaking of audio, these cameras have no way to adjust or monitor the audio levels. The included mics have gain settings, but it's just going to be down to trial and error to get it where you want it. Trial and error is such a pessimistic phrase. I would say trial and success is a more positive way to put it, but based on the audio from these microphones, maybe trial and error is more apt. Because with this one, if you don't have it on plus 20, you get almost no audio out of it, and even on plus 20, it's still very, very quiet, and I have to boost it quite a lot in post. And on this one, it has just high and low, and if you put it on low, the audio levels are very, very close to peaking, and if you put it on high, it basically clips all the time. So they're adjustable, but there's pretty much only one way you can really do it. In the end, regardless of what you think about the performance of these cameras, I don't recommend them, or any camera like them. I'm too frustrated with the lies and false advertising. And there's enough random variation that you never really know what you're getting regardless of specs. Are the frame rates something your computer will even read? Will the audio bit rates and sample rates be so low that the audio is terrible no matter what? No matter what the claims are, will the camera have 4x zoom or 10? Will the image quality be okay for a cheap camera or horrifically bad? Will the actual FPS at a given resolution be stuttery? If it claims to have stabilization, face tracking, autofocus, or whatever other feature, will it really? And if it does have autofocus, will it hunt continuously? Neither of these do, but a lot of the ones that I've tested that have autofocus, it's not very reliable. Will the camera have dead pixels or other weird defects and bugs? I've tested quite a lot that do. Will it have a block of cast iron inside to make it feel like it's not just an empty shell of nothing like so many of these cameras have? Including these two. I gotta say, they were pretty shy about revealing their block of metal. I think they're getting wise to me taking these apart and making it more difficult. But with a little bit of determination and breaking a few things, I was able to get them apart. They use a lot more glue than they used to. They used to be all screws. But you can see very clearly, block of metal, block of metal. And if you were curious, here is the camera module from each of these cameras. There you go. At this point, I'm comfortable calling these types of camcorders a scam. Certainly not the worst scam going by any means, but the ads have fake features, fake specs, fake images, and fake reviews. They use blocks of metal and fake reviews and manipulative claims and piles of cheap accessories to make them seem legit and hopefully get people past the return period. As people start to post negative reviews, they create a new ad, maybe from a different seller, with all new fake reviews. Or they just come up with a new model or even a new brand name. When I point out that a camera like this isn't what it claims to be, they try to play the victim, saying that they're just a small company without the budget of a big camera company. I reject that excuse. That's no excuse to lie and falsely advertise your products. Even the included accessories are scammy junk. The shotgun mics are just cheap, omnidirectional, or at best cardioid microphones built to look the part absolutely as cheap as possible. And that's basically true of all the accessories, such as this video light that came with one of these cameras. You can get decent on-camera rechargeable lights like this for pretty inexpensive these days. But this one is such cheap crap that it's literally dangerous. But it turns on, so it might get you past the return period. It felt so light when I took it out of the package that I assumed it was actually fake. I was surprised when it actually turned on. I figured the battery must be tiny, so I did a battery life test. First of all, the battery life is terrible. Second, because of the way it just kept running, even once the LEDs were so dim I could barely tell they were on, I suspected it had no battery discharge protection. I opened it up and found that not only is this the battery they put in it, this teeny little battery is just in this otherwise completely hollow, empty shell. So, explains why it's light, but also it discharged the battery way below the safe discharge level for a lithium-ion battery. It essentially just kept running forever. It might turn on right now. Yeah, it turns on, but you can see it barely lights up. And that is actually a lot brighter than it was. Eventually, the battery probably recovered a little bit, but it gets down close to 2 volts, which is way too low for a lithium. But that's not even the worst part. The worst part is, with the battery discharged that far, I plugged a USB-C cable in and it got right to work charging that over-discharged battery. And they're just throwing this fire hazard junk in with these camcorders to make them seem like a good value. By all means, throw a cheap, low-quality Wi-Fi security camera into a camcorder-shaped shell and sell it. But don't lie about it. Nobody who saw an ad for this would expect that they were actually getting one of these with a fake car around it. And nobody who saw an ad for these should have to expect that they're actually getting one of these with a fake camcorder around it. And that's basically what these cameras are. Why else would almost every one of them have Wi-Fi and IR night vision? They're $15 security cameras with modified firmware in a housing that makes it look like a camcorder, often with a block of metal thrown in to make it feel more substantial. As I've said in other videos, if you have a camera like this, or if it's all you can afford and you think the quality is good enough for you, that's cool. And if you spent your money on it, I genuinely hope it works for you. That's part of the reason I make these videos, so people will have a better idea of what they are or are not getting for their money. These cameras do record video and audio, and I'm sure you could use them to capture some memories or make something entertaining. I just wish people wouldn't end up misled by the ads and essentially gaslit by the fake reviews when trying to decide what to spend their hard-earned money on. If these cameras were just honest about what they were, didn't cram in ridiculous pointless upscaling and non-working features just so they could advertise them, and were genuinely cheap, they could be kind of fun. But some of these cameras cost hundreds of dollars, and even $80 to $100 is a lot to spend on something that can't do half of what it claims and doesn't do what it can do half as well as it claims it can do it. Basically, they're scammy, and I hate it. So, hopefully this was helpful. If you have any questions, let me know, and as always, thanks for watching. Take care.